Well, drought, it's something that's been on our minds and in our conversations a lot over the past year. December storms brought significant rain and snow to Idaho, pushing our snowpack to above normal levels and gave everybody a little bit of hope.
But a return to dry conditions this month and last month ate away at that snow surplus. Idaho is in fairly good shape for now, but moderate to extreme drought conditions do persist across the West. You take a look at Oregon and Washington. They're dealing with that. One tool to help us understand the seriousness of the ongoing drought is the Us Drought Monitor.
But you may want to know where that information comes from and who puts this drought monitor together. Well, meteorologist Jim Duthie explains what the drought monitor is and why it is so important to so many of us.
We all know that Idaho and most of the western U.S. has been in a drought for the past year or more. A drought is defined as a prolonged period of less than average amounts of rain and snow for a particular area. By early last June, as much as 99% of the western U.S. was at some level of drought, ranging from abnormally dry to extreme and exceptional drought conditions. The drought has been unprecedented for its duration and intensity, with record low precipitation and reservoir levels. But a drought is more than just a lack of adequate rain and snow. It has a real impact on people's lives and livelihoods. In 2006, Congress authorized the establishment of NIDIS, or the National Integrated Drought Information System, to provide and interpret drought information nationwide. And much of the information we receive comes from the U.S. Drought Monitor. This time-lapse of the Drought Monitor over the last few months shows that while there was some improvement in December and early January, thanks to a series of very wet storms, drier weather in January and February has led to continued drought conditions around the region. Joel Lisenby is a climatologist and drought early warning coordinator for NIDIS. He says their main goal is to help the country move from a reactive to a more proactive approach to managing drought.
A lot of what we do is just making the connections between the people who have that drought information and the people who need it to make decisions every day.
The U.S. Drought Monitor is a product of the National Drought Mitigation Center at the University of Nebraska at Lincoln. A group of weather and climate scientists and others from around the country evaluate dozens of indicators and data sources each week and then update the Drought Monitor map every Thursday.
They do it by looking at a myriad of different indicators, whether it's meteorological or hydrological indicators. They look at impacts such as agricultural impacts or changes to hydrology and reservoirs and stream flows. And they take this convergence of evidence approach, looking at all of the different aspects of drought and drought impacts. They then draw the lines on the map of where they see drought and how extreme that drought is and its spatial extent, and to some degree the time extent that it's been in place.
Based on that information, government and commercial interests are able to make decisions about how to use drought resources more efficiently and what kind of emergency assistance is needed.
The U.S. Drought Monitor is used to give a general indication of where the drought is and how bad it is. And this is then being used by groups like the USDA to determine which areas need drought relief, which areas are able to access drought-related grants and other funding. It's also oftentimes used by governors and other officials who have the authority to declare a drought.
There are numerous indicators to look at when considering drought impacts, including snowpack, stream flows, early snowmelt and runoff, soil moisture, and increased evaporation from lakes and reservoirs, especially with heat waves like we saw last summer. The Drought Monitor tries to incorporate all of these indicators into one map.
It shouldn't be the only indicator that people look at if they're making really big and expensive decisions, but it certainly gives a really clear, quick view of where drought is and how bad it is.
And climate change is having a huge impact on drought conditions worldwide.
A warmer climate means that we see more precipitation coming as rain than snow, than what we've seen in the past, which means that the natural reservoir that we call the snowpack in the mountains, it's less. That water has run off.
And higher freezing levels also leads to reduced snowpack in the mountains. The U.S. Drought Monitor is one of several essential tools to help us deal with drought conditions in Idaho. And climate change, including droughts, will make water availability one of the biggest issues in Idaho's future. For Idaho's News Channel 7, I'm meteorologist Jim Duthie.
Yeah, really interesting story, and it reminds me too of meteorologist Sophia Bliss's story about runoff efficiency and how important it is that it kind of runs off over time versus all at once.
Not too quickly. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Drought Monitor authors also look at reports of impacts posted by people all across the country online at Seymour Drought website. Along with all the other data they look at, personal accounts of the impacts of drought are also considered.
You know, you can access that website, check it out for yourself through the link that's shown at the bottom of your screen right there. Yep, there it is. Coming up tomorrow on the news at 10, we're going to hear from meteorologist Larry Gebert. He's going to explain the underground aquifers. Those are those lakes of water that are underneath the ground. Pretty self-explanatory. And how some of that water comes out as springs in the Snake River Canyon.